Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to continue our logical fallacy series. We're on number 4 now. So we are doing all of these things to help people with higher level thinking. In previous calls, we talked about more than just recall, really digesting information, getting it into our heart, getting it into our hands. I was just reading the scriptures yesterday, actually, and then one of the scriptures popped out, and it was talking about, anchoring it and letting it sink deeply into their heart. And I thought, yes, that's what we want. Um, and when we are able to do that, we can reason as well, because sometimes we haven't practiced enough. It's like a muscle, and we get taken for a ride, and then we get lost in all that. And that's Satan's ruse. He likes to trick us. And if we don't have the skills, we continue to buy into that rubbish. And when we do that, the next generation, we sell that pattern to the next generation, and the next generation, if they adopt that, before long, after about three or four generations, no one questions it anymore, and everyone just responds, reacts the same way we did. So we want to change that. Or, when we learn more about these logical reasoning, logical fallacies, we can actually undo the damage that has been done by our ancestors, unintentionally, but still. Okay, so it helps with our mental clarity. It helps us rebuke Satan, and it protects us and our children as we learn how to do this forever. Okay, these are important skills. So we're up to number 4, like I said, and number 4 is appeal to emotion. So what they're trying to do is to win people over by making people feel sad or scared. So that's a logical fallacy. Um, I witnessed this week with a grandma, a Vietnamese grandma, and her grandson. Um, I'm the teacher, and I was telling grandma some things, and grandma's like, "Oh, oh," and she turned to her grandson and she's like, "If you are not good, I won't love you anymore. I will be
Oh, wow.
sad." And I was like, "No,
Oh no.
stop, stop, Grandma." I said, "Look," I turned to the boy and I said, "Grandma will love you no matter what. Okay? But if you do something wrong, let Grandma know. She might be a little bit sad, but she'll tell you to do it different, and be better. But she'll still always love you, right, Grandma?" She's like, "Oh, that's what I mean." I'm like, "Okay." Woo. But yeah, she kept on saying, I'm gonna leave, and I'm not gonna live with you anymore." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is exactly the logical fallacy we're going to talk about this week." So the universe has spoken, and I'm like, "Yep, I definitely need to do this." Yeah, so guys, that's that what you know, we are more intelligent than that. We can't stoop down to that little bit of manipulation there. Okay, if you don't give this to me, I'll be sad forever. I'll cry forever. If you don't play with me, that's what kids might do, right? When our children do that, we need to correct that. Okay. Or, if you don't buy this from me, husband, if you don't listen or support me in this way, you are heartless and, breaking my heart. Woo! Have you seen that before?
On the
Yeah.
daily, we get children. She's not my best friend. She's not my best friend anymore. He's not my best friend. This best friend thing. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Daily.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or the dobbing miss. Yeah. Yep. So we've got to teach them a better way, even if they're not being taught at home. Yeah. But hopefully we'll recognize that in maybe our culture, our home culture, or maybe our parents and grandparents or whatever, if they do that. I know my mum did that for a while. And, whenever I catch her doing that to my children, like she's like, "Don't you love me anymore? you know, don't you want any of my, cakes or whatever? And they're like, oh my gosh, what do I say, mom? And so now they're running away from her. And I said, no, you just tell grandma, I'm full. Thank you very much. Give her a hug. You love her. And then I told mum separately, privately, I said, mum, you cannot do that. You cannot manipulate them like that. She doesn't understand what she's doing. She really doesn't. That's how they speak. That's how they want people to do what they want. So I'm like that. You will always love them. Can you stop telling them that? So, anyways, so we need to let emotions support. So this is the logical reasoning. Okay, we need to let emotions support, but not replace logic. So please eat this dish I made for you. And if they say no, you're like, that's okay if you're not hungry, if you don't want it. Okay. That's it. Not, please eat it, or if you're not, I'll be sad. Yeah. So we do trust our feelings. Certain things come into our heart by the Holy Ghost. It will guide. There's opportunities for the Holy Ghost to guide us, but we cannot use that negative feeling. If sometimes we feel rejected, if sometimes we feel sad, that's our responsibility to solve. We need to explore it, right? Even this week, I was telling one of my daughters, if that feeling of anxiety or that feeling of sadness or stress is in you, you need to explore it. You need to let it instruct you. And she's like, I don't know what it's saying. And I'm like, well, you just have to sit in that a little bit longer then, and then let it teach you. What is it that you're really thinking? What is it that you're really believing? Do you feel like you're a failure? Right? Is that why you feel that way? Do you believe that you're a failure? Do you want to quit? What is it? Are you disappointed in yourself? Do you think God is disappointed in you? Stuff like that. Just ask yourself lots of questions, but I put it all back on her. So, yeah, I think that's the best way to go. The feelings are within you. You need to be responsible for it. At school, I teach year one and year two on Fridays. We have a little bit of a yoga and um, like wellness, well-being session. So every week I pick a couple of topics. We've been talking about responsibility and resilience and gratitude. Yesterday we talked about that, but the responsibility is your feelings, your responsibility. No blaming, no complaining. It's you that's feeling it. Nobody's opening you up and poking buttons and turning the switches on. Your brain and your heart created those emotions, or you need to learn how to manage it. Okay. So I said one of the biggest antidote, which one of the kids knew what it meant. He said, it's a cure, you know. Yes, it's gratitude. Yeah, and we talked about all the things that we need to be grateful for while we did our yoga. So that was really, really satisfying to watch these kids being taught stuff like this that I feel like they might not have an opportunity at home. Yeah. So that's our family saying, the feelings are within you, you are responsible for it. So somehow you need to figure it out. Okay. We can guide and help. Like last night, my daughter came in and said, Mom, can we do a session? Yeah. And then every oil that came up, she's like, oh, it's delicious. Oh, exactly what I mean. Exactly what I needed. Yeah. So all of that um, emotional like appeal, right, in this logical fallacy is actually based on fear. Yeah. So in 2 Timothy 1:17, it reads, For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Perfect, right? It says, that's not a good way to reason. You know, make sure you check in and go, am I being fearful? Like if they don't eat my food, it's not a rejection of me. It's just the food, right? They're full or they don't like that kind of food. Doesn't matter. It's not a personal attack. Yeah. So power, love, and a sound mind. That's our solution. Yep. So any time you want to convince somebody of something, reason with somebody, we're not going to use this emotion as a manipulation. Okay. And we can talk to God about that too. I know some people use that to God. I'm going to be so mad at you and I'm not going to talk to you ever again if you don't answer my prayers and give me blessings. Yeah. So in our church, there's a book called Doctrine and Covenants. It's section 9, verse 8, and it says, "But behold, I say unto you that must study it out in your mind, then you must ask me if it be right. And if it is right, I will cause that your bosom shall burn within you. Therefore, you shall feel it. It is right." So you have to sit in it, think about it, reason with yourself, and then ask, and then the Lord will answer in our hearts and our souls. Okay, but you got to put in that effort and study it out in your mind. Then pray about it. All right, and He will confirm whether your thinking is correct. All right, you don't come to God or anyone with this, emotional height, and then whinge about it and expect to get your way so that they fix your sadness or your whatever. All right, that's all I have. Any comments?
Yeah, I think it's so well put, Jade, especially earlier when you described the ancestors and how they take on those, they don't have the opportunity or the awareness to rebuke Satan and they take it on. I think that's the bridge for
Mm-hmm.
people to understand, you know, that they carry their ancestors' stuff
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, that's really big. Yeah, it's actually something that people are getting more and more aware of, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So great grandmother said, "Oh, if you don't eat this food, you don't love me," and then it passes on and passes it on and passes it on. Yeah, nobody sits there and questions and is like, what does it have to do with the food? What does this love have to do with it? I mean, it's an expression of love because you're offering something because out of love. But yeah, we need to really be clear-minded and then look how free you are when you can recognize how to read.
Mm,
Yeah, it just gives you so much freedom. Yeah, and you're a
mm,
steady person. Yeah. Michaela, did you want to comment? Thank you, Rebecca.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's breaking the generational bonds too. But yeah, those sort of like emotional appeals, it can be in a lot of different ways. Like you can see it in like you like someone's like arguing like, oh, I don't feel like you care about me. And it's like not entirely related, but it's, flag to where their own fears are and how they're taking it. But it can also be phrased like a different way. If someone's like, um, you just don't want me to be happy,
Mm.
or you want me to be miserable, you want me to suffer, or whatever.
Yeah,
Just those sorts of things. Like there's so many different ways that we can flip this one.
yeah,
And it's one of the main dangerous ones because humans are very emotional creatures. I am writing a 8-page paper like this weekend about appeals to emotions.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, that's timely. Yeah, that's right. You can say it in different ways. The examples that I had was really obvious, but yeah, you can blame it on people. Oh, you're cold-hearted if you don't this, and because you're trying to convince somebody to do something that you want them to do, um, or understand your reasoning, but that's not good reasoning. Yeah,
or
basically.
this other person is cold-hearted, this other person
Yeah.
is cruel, or they don't understand, or they just want us to suffer, like they just hate us, or
Mm,
whatever.
mm,
Instead of being like, okay, maybe there is some tension here, but that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, let's just focus on the argument. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Thank you so much, Michaela. Well, all the best on your 8-page paper.
I've got like 10 pages in, so I'm good.
Oh,
I
lots of
just need to refine it. It's good.
it's good.
Chat GPT, Michaela.
Oh, heck no,
Okay.
no. No, I'm a really good writer. I'm a really
I'm
good
sure
writer.
you are. I'm sure
And
you
so,
are.
yeah, yeah,
Good.
it'll be good. I promise you that.
And
Good on
It's
you.
good.
Good on you. All right. So number 5 is bandwagon. It's about thinking something is right because everyone else does it. So that's a biggie. A kid might say, "All my friends have phones, so I should too." Or all my friends have whatever Xbox or PS5 or whatever, and so I should have too. Okay, that is a logical fallacy, but that is very common, isn't it? Yeah. And as parents, we don't need to just give in to that and go, "Oh, my poor child." We should say, "Hey, pause. Here are the reasons." Okay? And it's okay to be different. Or an adult says, "Well, you know, I most people I know stopped shop on the Sabbath, or stopped going to church on the Sabbath, and they're okay. So it must be all right."
mm.
Yeah. Or lots of my friends, break this commandment, whatever, da 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 da. They're okay. So it must be okay. So the logical takeaway is popularity doesn't equal truth. So look at the reasons behind the belief. So we don't need, you know, the whole world to be popular. You can be the only one standing on this side, and it's called integrity. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Once I was, didn't want to engage in this one conversation, and then I had some close family ask me, um, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I just don't want to. I don't want to hear all the false things that, you know, I just rather hang out and talk to people who have integrity, because my brain goes, it doesn't make sense. That thing that person said just doesn't make sense right now. And I'm like, I don't want to sit there. And then like she's like, well, just don't listen to what they say. Just never mind it. I'm like, how when they speak words, how does my mind ignore all that and not follow what she's trying to say? Right. And I'm like, no, it's just uncomfortable. I can't. I just can't. So, anyways, at least I know that about myself. It's just hard to watch when you know people just don't have that reasoning, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. So I had a conversation with a behavior therapist this week for one of my students, and the guy says, well, the mom wants us to tell the school what the school's doing wrong, um you know and how we need to be better. And he's like, I think the problem is the mom, not the school. And so he's like, but I'm scared of her because she might fire me. And I said to him, well, because she's like, I fire all these people, and then these schools get fired, all these principals get fired, and she's telling him that before she hired him. And I said to him, we just need to do what is right. And even if we're the only ones, We just need to do what is right, because if she's manipulated everybody into saying and doing everything that she wants, like everyone's doing it like that way, we still need to do what's right and let the consequence follows, right? So, and he's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, anyways, that's how we should teach our children. We just have to be brave enough to face the consequence, whatever it is, and whenever it happens, you just have to be okay with that. Okay. So in Matthew 7:13-14, it reads, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat, because strait is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So popularity isn't always the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, right, as soon as we can, teach our kids that. Our twins had a bit of a struggle when they first came to high school here in Australia. Um, and that was kind of the thing, the friends were like, I don't want to do this class. Let's leave this class. Let's this, like that. And we taught our kids, for years and way back when they were little. So they're like, oh, it's okay. You guys can go. We'll just stay here. And so they turn up at school, even when friends decide to skip school for whatever reason, just they're still there, whether they're popular or not. And some of their friends, didn't like them because they were just too, straight in that way. But yeah, now that they've stood firm, they've got so many friends, they've got more popularity now. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was just to stays true. Yeah. Like in Joshua 24:15, as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. Yeah. So bandwagon, that's pretty obvious, but sometimes it's hard because you're, worried about what the crowd thinks. And sometimes when you don't know what to do, um, we don't know how to turn inwards and say, let me check with the Lord if that's okay. I read a talk by a leader in our church, and he says, over time, laws might change, culture might change. People might say it's okay. It's okay now. But God's always the same. His commandments are always the same. And so what's right by the law even might not be, not it's still not right by God. What's wrong is wrong. And it's still wrong and it remains wrong. Yeah. Michaela, did you want to share?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with this whole bandwagon that it's largely rooted in your sense of identity. If you don't know for sure like who you were and what you stand for, you're so easily swayed by people and their own like ideas or agendas and stuff. And so if you have like if it's funny, and I've seen it when I talk to people or where they would have an opinion and then I would challenge it, just like prodding just a little bit. And then they'd like switch their opinion to match mine. And I'm like, okay, but like you said something totally different just like 30 minutes ago. Like, and I see that over and over again where if I'm firm in my opinion, but someone else is not, they will automatically change it because they're not rooted in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Their identity isn't rooted. And if they're like, oh, this person's confident, then they must be right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to seem stupid. I don't want to seem ignorant. So they'll match it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it and I'm guilty of like playing around with it a little bit, like just be like, oh yeah, so you think this? Okay, all right. And then like eventually like I'll be like, okay, but you said this. And just I that's so mean.
That's kind
But
of appeal to authority too. Yeah,
it is definitely an appeal to authority.
yeah.
But like I'll see that in
You know
like
that weakness.
authority figures, I'll see that in like
Yeah,
different people I interact with.
yeah. You can see that weakness, and it's easy to take advantage of
Yeah.
when you
And
see
it's kind of sad.
they don't have that skill, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I know. Yeah. Anybody else want to share or your comment? This is a bandwagon.
Yeah, I think that's true. The fear of, I think it also stems from the family upbringing. You know, it's like listening to your authority figures, in quotation marks, mother or father, and how they set the tone. And then as people grow up and they go into society, they're, you know, you have this manager employee relationship in corporate. And so it's like, oh, whatever the manager says is gospel.
Hmm.
It, you know, and this is where we've seen banks fall down and things like this because nobody spoke up about what they saw was wrong. Um, and you do still see it particularly in the building industry. I know some employees there, they're like that, you know, Meriton Harry talks to them horribly, absolutely horribly, and everybody is abused and nobody speaks up to him because he's the big boss, you know, and it's just inappropriate culture, but it's fear, you know, they sit in fear and
Mm.
you, you know, and I see other organizations where that you you are encouraged to speak up. You are treated as an equal, regardless of your title or level or how much you're being paid. Like it's completely different culture. So it's just interesting to see the
Hmm.
difference in the employees and their belief systems. And
Yeah, that's so
yeah,
true. That's kind of like bullying there, isn't it? From
yeah,
the crowd because there's this big bully. Yeah. Instead of standing, yeah, firm. And then we need to address fear of rejection too, because if you stand up for yourself or stand up for truth, you're going to have rejection. So we talked about that with our children. Um,
mm,
And this is something that we have to keep talking about because when they experience it, it feels different. Because then, you say this and prepare them, but then when it actually happens, it's still painful. And then you have to remember your argument, because Satan's going to say, oh, because you're no good and nobody likes you. So you have to remember, yeah. So in 1 Samuel 8:7, it says, they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. So, when we're doing things in the spirit of God, um, for building up his kingdom and all that, or as a representative of God, and when people reject it, it's not rejecting you, it's rejecting him. Okay.
wow.
And he says he can handle it. So, he loves you and he's not rejected you. And so you still make that connection to him. And it's okay. You don't carry that pain on your own. So that's pretty wise, I think, to tell yourself that it's not me. It's they don't want any of faith, anything to do with God. That's their thing. Yeah. But even when you stand for truth, just like you're saying, someone's bullying and bulldozing over everybody, and if you stand still and you lose your job or something and they reject you, at least you know that they're rejecting God. Actually, they're rejecting truth. They're rejecting kindness, and yeah, when your organization is pretty fair and safe, when your people can make comments and suggestions. Yeah, this
Yeah.
week, yeah, this week I've had some kids come up and tell me things like, "Oh, do you think I can move next to this person?" Or, "Miss, thank you for teaching us those things," and things like that. And I'm like, "That's good um, feedback, and it's good that they're free and safe to come up and share those things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. So that is Bandwagon. That's pretty easy. Number 6, okay, and we'll stop here and then we'll have a little discussion off record. Number 6 is begging the question or circular reasoning. Using a statement to prove itself, using a claim as its own proof. So I want to get candy because I should, or I don't pray because praying doesn't work. So it's the same thing, right? God won't forgive me because I've done too much wrong. It's just, yeah, it's circular, right? Um, so God doesn't answer my prayers because he never listens to me. That's the same thing. He's just saying the same things over and over again. Okay. So it doesn't make sense. A conclusion needs real support. Okay. It's not the repetition or rhetoric. It's good because it's good. Yeah. That drug is good because it's good. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And some people do that. Yeah. So we need some proof when we make a statement, and we need to back up that statement with proof, and they have to be good proof. In 1 Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. So ask questions, experiment on it, and then evaluate with the Spirit. Okay, we can't just make a statement and then hold it as if it's the answer. Okay, so when people make statements, like, what is it, this guy, um, he says, if the church is true, you have to have a cross, you know, um, and then therefore it's not true. It's just, there's nothing, he didn't reason anything there, right? Um, yeah. So look into the actual argument, find proof to back your argument up. So that's fairly straightforward. In Isaiah 1:18, it reads, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins are as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." So, the Lord can help us clarify things, clean our sins. I love this because it feels like he helps you reason out of Satan's lies that rebuking. Because you keep on saying, "Oh, I suck. I'm the worst because I messed up. I messed up because I messed up. I messed up because I'm sinning." And it's just like all this circular reasoning, and you just go spiral and spiral and spiral. And
Sin
then,
because I'm a sinner. Jordan 5.
pardon?
It's like the whole statement, like, I'm a sinner,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I sin. And you just go round and round.
So I sin, 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 and I keep sinning, and it's like, get yourself out of that. All right, so come now. Let us reason together. So how about pray? Talk to the Lord. Ask him, what can I do about this? Because when you come to him, he'll give you strength and power to heal, to get rid of that stain, to forgive yourself, to forgive others, and move forward and progress. Yeah. Sometimes Satan doesn't need you to sin big sins. He just needs you to get stuck and not progress.
That's why it's called damning,
Yeah.
because you're damned.
Yeah. You're just stuck in your situation. I've spoken to several people in the last 10 years about this. And sometimes when we get together and we reason it out a little bit, we think, oh my goodness, like I could have done this many years ago instead of staying where I am and being stuck. And I could have taught my kids this years ago instead of letting them suffer these things. So I'm like, yeah, it's just the way Satan works, right? This circular reasoning doesn't make sense, and we just sit there and we buy into that. And when we realize this now, we have this skill now. We say, wait, that's rhetoric, just saying the same things. All right, that there's no evidence, there's no proof there. We can say, well, let's pray together or reason together, get together with other people that can help me reason through all this. And then I can change my beliefs and my thoughts about this, and then it changes your feelings when you do that. Yay, right? And then you're liberated. I feel like with God, anything, any sin, any patterns, any culture of captivity that we have in our family can be resolved, and it can be resolved pretty quickly. And it doesn't have to be as severe as we make it out to be. And even if we suffered it for years and years, it can be solved. That's why um, the gospel is called good news. You know, there's nothing that can't be solved with God, right? And when He promises us peace, He means it. We don't have to continue to be a martyr and to be suffering because this happened and that happened. You know, I feel like there's relief and it can be fast and just go to Him. How exciting is that? Which is just in our hopelessness, we feel weak and we think weak thoughts and then we create weak feelings. So I hope if you're watching this, right, I hope you feel like there's ways that we can find happiness and peace. Um, and our circular thinking can be stopped. You know, we can pause there and elevate ourselves out of that. Okay. So faith is not blind. It's actually seeking and asking and reasoning and listening. It's quite intelligent. I think people that don't believe in God might think that people who are believers, you know, blind and naive, but I think it's the other way around. We can stand our ground, we can reason, and then we anchor ourselves in truth. We're not going to be flaky and fly with the wind wherever the wind blows. What is wrong is always wrong and forever will be wrong, even if laws change, even if trends change. It feels great to be anchored, to be wise. Yeah. Well, that's all I have. Anybody want to make comments or share any thoughts?
Yes, Jade, you're right about this. The idea when people say it's naive to, oh, just believe in God and just blindly follow. Because I've definitely had, yeah, I've seen people who just don't have that path or are not anchored there. They don't have boundaries. They are definitely stuck. All these things that you're speaking about is showing up in their life experience
Yeah.
because they question Jesus, they question his existence, but he's a historical figure. Let's just go to that fact. It's like he is in the history books. If you don't believe, have a look at the history. It's that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I struggle with going deeper with the evidence because they've already decided. So
Mm-hmm.
that's their life journey is up to them to find the truth, isn't it really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rebecca, that's the burden of proof. You know,
Yeah.
as you are not burdened with that proof, right? If they don't believe, it's up to them to find that proof. You don't need to find proof for them. Like you said, they've already decided. So no matter what you do, whatever proof you come
Yeah.
up with, they're not going to buy into that. So it's not up to you to fix it, to help them understand it. But we can testify, we can share our thoughts, and if they think, you're naive, or one guy said to me, you're so innocent. You're so innocent, and kind of tease. And I've got, family members that would tease and say, oh, you're so pure and innocent. And sometimes they laugh and look down on you as if, oh, you're such a goody goody. But you know what? They don't realize that I've reasoned and I understand why I'm where I am. And there's a great
Mm.
amount of peace. But look at the evidence. Look at
Yes.
how happy we are, how anchored we are. You know, um, we're not wandering around and, wondering if that we should be following this trend and that trend. We're just so anchored, and they know where we stand, right? They know where our boundaries are. Even that, right? Even that's evidence that we're on the right path, right?
Mm.
And we're healthy. In general, we're pretty healthy. We're not
Yeah.
suffering from some things. Like who is who is the one suffering there, right? They're the ones that have a lot of these struggles. The person that actually told me that, oh, you're so innocent, that person has so many health problems and so
Mhm.
unhappy. And then I'm like, well, I'd rather be this innocent and um, whatever they call me, right? And be happy and healthy. So,
Mhm.
but in the end, it doesn't, if we're not well, it's also because of opportunities for us to heal for our ancestors. But still, when you're just anchored and you're reasoned and you took the time, then it just makes life so easy. Like I know how to help my children. I know where to guide my children. I mean that piece alone is great because I'm human. I don't know
Mm.
stuff, but when I'm, following the Lord, following the Spirit, it gives me confidence. Like I think this is the right path. I feel like this is the right path, and I'm beginning to know that it is the right path for my children and for me. Yeah, and then the results show. Yeah. So those are the three things that I wanted to share with you today. So hopefully that's helpful. So begging the question is circular reasoning. And we have the bandwagon, and then we have the appeal to emotions. So yeah, hopefully we can catch those things now, and yeah, not get sold by that. Okay, by them. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you so much for joining me, guys.